You can spend whatever you want on watches. They've got multi-million dollar watches, but my watch collections is not about the money. It's about the memories. And every single one of them has a fun memory associated with it.
Welcome to Watch Smarts, where smart people get smarter about watches. I'm your host, David Newman. Let's jump right in. Well, I have collector extraordinaire. I'm not sure if he would agree with that title, but Mr. Bryce Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David. I appreciate it.
So you were saying right before we turned on the mics that your affinity for the horological, as we say, started when you were a kid. And could you just tell us the story of what was that first watch you got as a kid and what was cool about it?
Absolutely. Well, I had a lot of the little digital watches as a kid, and they were fun because you could start a stopwatch. And
yes.
I thought that was neat. I could time my friends running and what have you. But none of those lived to see the light of day. Well, my freshman year of high school, my dad had gone on a scuba diving trip down somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't remember. But he came back with this amazing chronograph, or at least it was amazing to me. It was a Seiko, so this was not a super high-end watch, but it would give you I think fifths of a second on the second hand, and then it had a minute hand that would click every minute, and then it'd even do 12 hours after that, and I'd never seen anything like it. It would do a second time on the bottom, so it had 4 little dials on it, and this spoke to me. Well, much to my surprise, 3 years later, when I graduated high school, my dad had been able to get another copy of this watch, and that was my high school graduation gift. And for those of you on video as opposed to audio, this is what it looks like. And it's your standard chronograph, but it always meant something to me. And I wore it all through college and part of grad school. And it's fun to still have. It's important to have good memories about things that happened in your past. And to me, you can spend whatever you want on watches. They've got multi-million dollar watches, but my watch collections is not about the money. It's about the memories. And every single one of them has a fun memory associated with it.
For sure. Well, that brings us to my very next question. What was the first watch that you bought with your own money? And do you remember how old you were? Do you remember what it cost? Do you still have it?
As a matter of fact, I do. At least the first one of any significance. I'm sure I might have bought one of the $20 Timex digital watches when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I had a job from 2001 to 2004 with a little payroll company. And then we got bought by Wells Fargo, and we got big. We got really big, really quick. And money started getting a little better. And we got through the first year, and I got a small bonus for being there for a year. And I wanted to do something nice. And I'd always wanted an auto-winding watch because no batteries, because it would survive the apocalypse. Because I thought it was cool. So saw an ad somewhere for a TAG. I don't know if it's TAG Heuer or TAG Heuer.
Yes, Heuer.
Thank you. For a TAG Heuer Link series, and I'm not much of a Tiger Woods or golf fan, but I liked the watch, and started looking into them. And it gave my wife something. It gave my wife and I something to do together. We could go into jewelry stores, see which ones they had, that kind of thing. And eventually there was a place downtown here in Minneapolis that didn't have one in stock, but they could order it for me. And I kind of liked that idea because I didn't know if it'd, been there for a day or for a couple of years sitting in their display case. So this TAG Link series, which is strikingly similar as a chronograph and what have you to the Seiko I just mentioned. But this one, it's been a lot of fun, and I've had it long enough to where I did have to send it in to TAG to get repaired. It started leaking a little bit, so they went ahead and overhauled it. And it's still a fun watch to wear. It's funny, though, the practicality of some of the automatics, this one's a little heavy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that's okay. But yes, this was the first watch of any meaning that I had, and I think I picked it up when I was around 30, which would make it over 20 years old.
Do you remember what it cost back in the day?
I want to say it was probably $1,800, something like that. So for me at the time, very much a pricey watch. And
yes.
It's something that I hope is around to where my kids will be able to enjoy it long after I'm gone.
It's funny. I think people sometimes just collect watches organically, and it sounds like these first couple were like an organic choice.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, what was the moment you went from, I love watches, I have two or three now that are meaningful to me, to starting kind of a mini collection, or having that, let me keep my eyes open for the next cool watch that might come across my radar? Was there a moment that you got bit by the collector bug?
I had one shortly after the TAG, and then I had one maybe 8 or 10 years ago. And I think those two events together are what made me formally a watch. I mean, I'm not a watch guy like some people are, but I'm a bit of a watch guy.
Sure.
So the first one was, I liked the TAG, but as I mentioned, it was kind of heavy. And I was just looking around and seeing what was there. And I don't know if you know this, Dave, but I'm a weekend auto racer. And it turns out that Rolex has a whole line of chronographs called Rolex Daytonas that are kind of a racing inspired, sort of watch. And I thought that was cool. So went to a jewelry store and said, do you have any Daytonas? And they said yes. And they showed me some, and they had like all gold and two-tone gold and what have you. And then I looked at the prices on those and said, do you have the stainless steel one? Because that's really the one I want. And they looked at me like, no. And I was like, what's with the attitude here? And they apologized, like, oh, you don't know. And I'm like, apparently not. They said they only make so many hundred of these a year, because at the time that was the watch you won if you won the 24 hours of Rolex auto race, which is extremely prestigious. Yeah. So they purposely made them in very limited quantity out of unobtainium. So the jewelry store told me, like, we can put you on the list, but it'll be when your kids graduate college. And even then, in full transparency, if one of our customers is doing more than $100,000 worth of business, well, they get to the top. So it may never happen. Want to do $100,000 a year worth of business with anyone, let alone a jeweler. Yeah. So I kind of wrote it off. I just, that's that. This isn't going to happen for me. Fast forward a year, we take my wife's wedding ring into a very reputable jeweler here in the Twin Cities, and we were going to reset the stone because it had a 6-prong head, and you can't have that. We need a 4-prong head because that's what's in style. Fine, that's a great idea, honey. Yes, let's get you a 4-prong head. David, they broke her diamond. Ooh. I don't mean they chipped it. I mean, 1/3 of the diamond was in my left hand and 2/3 of the diamond was in my right hand. I didn't even know you could do that. Yeah. But they broke the stone, and they were good about it. It turned into an upgrade opportunity. But she was happy with the new stone, and that was good. But when I walked in, they told me, we don't sell jewelry, we sell memories. And I said to the jeweler, his name was Curtis, I said, Curtis, half of my memory is in my left hand and half of it's in the right hand, and you won't even let me take them home because you have to submit these to insurance. Said, so what are we going to do about this? Well, he goes in back and comes back about 10 minutes later and says, white face or black? And I said, I think I'll take black. He said, it'll be 4 or 6 months. I said, perfect. So I had to pay full retail. But because they broke my wife's wedding ring, I ended up with the privilege of buying a real Rolex Daytona.
Wow, nice.
So this is the most expensive watch that I've got, and they have more than doubled in price since I bought it.
Yes.
But it's a fun watch to wear. It is still my good luck charm. Whenever I'm on track, I have this on my wrist because I have never been in a serious wreck on track, and I hope to never have it happen. And knock on wood, so far that's worked. But that was the first half of the bug, is this amazing, wild story where I should have paid like 14 or 15 grand on eBay for that watch if I wanted a new one. And I was able to get it for list price and jump the line. And, now I have this great story. The second one, it's a little more bittersweet, but it's meaningful. So my family comes from a long line of people that work with their hands. My dad was a dentist. My grandfather was a tool and die maker. His father repaired sewing machines, of all things. And my great-grandfather's name was Sam Lummer. And I don't have a lot of memories of Sam. He died long before I was born. There's not a whole lot of memorabilia. But he bought himself a 1923 Elgin gold pocket watch, which went to my Grandpa Joe, which then was passed between my father and my uncle. And there are always different opinions about what's matter and what's meaningful in a family. Well, my uncle thought this heritage and lineage and having connection to the past was a lot more important than my father did. So When they got together, sometimes the watch would trade places. And my uncle saw to it stayed with him as they got later in life. And about 3 years, they passed away within 2 months of each other in 2018. And about 3 years before that, he says, I can't say for sure what the future holds, but I'm concerned if the watch ends up back with your dad, it may get sold or something like that. And some things need to stay in the family, regardless of value or opinions or what have you. And in 2015, I came home with a 1923 Elgin pocket watch. And it's a very unusual one. It's not round. It's more of a squarish watch to it. And I'm guessing it's worth more as weight in gold than it is an actual pocket watch. But this is the only thing I'm aware of left on the planet of my great-grandfather. And knowing that it made it to the next generation, because when both my uncle and dad passed away, I became the patriarch of the family, which is an odd thing to have happen at 45. But this is the oldest artifact I can hold of my family's lineage. And it made me realize how important having a hobby that has meaning to you and your ancestors is.
Yes, absolutely. And what a great way to, have some physical memento of their interests or their passions or just their history.
Yeah. So I think those two things are what cemented me being a watch person and kind of being on the lookout for the next one that speaks to me.
Quick commercial break here to ask you, have you seen all of the cool resources, downloads, and guides waiting for you at watchsmarts.com? Go check it out. You'll love it. Well, speaking of which, out of your collection, is there one, and maybe you've already given a little bit of a preview of an answer. Maybe it's the Daytona. I don't know. But what's your desert island watch? If you had to wear one for the rest of your life, which one would you pick? And then what's special about it?
Oh, that's hard. Truthfully, from the standpoint of reflecting, I'll say, my personality, it's my latest one. I picked up a Maurice Lacroix skeleton watch just several weeks ago, but I've been on the eye out. I've had my eye out for it for over 10 years, David.
Yeah.
They stopped making this particular one in 2014. I did not like the new generation. The aesthetics of it didn't speak to me as much. And it's an old school watch. It's wind up, but you can see the fly or hairspring in there going back and forth and all the little guts. And assuming I don't drop it. If I turn it around here, for those on video, you can see right through the thing.
Yeah.
I really like this watch a lot. I like that it's wind up. I like that it's simple. It seems to keep very good time. So I think if I had a desert island watch right now, it would probably be this one. And who knows what my answer would be 5 years from now. Because,
of course,
the Daytona, people don't build a much better watch than Rolex. So 50 years from now, if one of them is going to work, it's probably going to be that one.
That's right.
Having said that, to some extent, it depends on my mood. Like, I'm glad to be in a position where I don't have to pick one for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Because figuring out, am I going into a meeting where I want a little bit of flash, like the new skeleton watch? Or do I want to be more formal, like the TAG? Or do I want to show that I'm a weekend auto racer? Because if people know Daytonas, I get a lot of comments on the Daytona because it's the stainless steel one. And those are the ones made of unobtainium.
Unobtainium. That's so good. Do other people, so you mentioned about you get compliments. I'm curious, do other people in your life, family, friends, colleagues, clients, do other people in your life notice or care about your watches?
I think my kids are interested, but care about's a strong term. I'm not sure I go that far.
Okay.
My uncle, regrettably, he's the one that passed away in 2018, but he was huge into Victorian era stuff. And he had a railroad grade pocket watch, which was the most accurate watch available in the mid to late 1800s. Because what was happening is the train conductor didn't know exactly what time it was. They tended to hit other trains.
Yes.
So the railroad watch was this giant revolution in accuracy, because all of a sudden it mattered. And he carried one of those in his pocket for years and years and years. And I think he would be very happy to see that this has grown into a little hobby, and that it starts with the one that he gave me. And Yeah, yeah. As it turns out, my weekend auto racing car is his Porsche Cayman S. And I think there's a little symmetry to wearing that Daytona behind the wheel of a track car.
When you're out and about, either at the track or just with your clients, speaking, consulting, at the grocery store, wherever you may be, what makes you stop and look twice at a watch? What's your kind of radar tuned for?
The biggest thing is someone that obviously picked it out to make a statement of some sort. It could be a fashion statement. I saw one in Vegas. It was ridiculously big. I mean, it was like the size of a saucer. And it had 3 watches in it. It had a big one and 2 little ones all inside. And you could set them to different times. And way, 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 way too ostentatious for me. But it was a statement. And I thought that was cool. I've seen people with watches that obviously have meaning to them because they're so worn. And, watches are becoming less obvious, less popular. You see more Apple watches now, which is not a watch, it's a little computer. So anytime I see a watch on someone's wrist that obviously has some sort of story or meaning to them, it will catch my eye. And often it gets a conversation started.
I'm curious, Bryce, what's a popular opinion in the watch world that you quietly or maybe not so quietly disagree with?
First, that the move to computer-based watches is a good thing. I am in cybersecurity for a living. I'm a big fan of many kinds of technology. There are some things that I question strongly if we're making the world a better place by integrating more technology into them. So seeing these watches, I was in Harrods several years ago in London, and they had some Apple watches they had dressed up with like $5,000 cases. And I remember thinking to myself, neat, they're trying to make an Apple Watch into like a high-end fashion watch, but then the next generation is going to come out next year, and now you have a paperweight. Like who this was not a good idea. So I like watches being mechanically strong, but the move to electronic watches does not speak to me because the old ones that I have, like the Seiko, I don't keep the batteries swapped out in them. And every time you do, you need to replace the O-rings or they're going to leak. And so I think that might be the biggest one is I like my old school watches. And in full transparency, I have a small Fitbit on my other wrist.
Yes.
So it's not that I'm against the idea of getting your steps and, checking your heart rate and those kind of things. Those are neat things too, but that's not a fashion statement. That's a utilitarian device.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of man jewelry, at least not in America. And I think watches is one of our bastions where we are allowed to wear what we want and to have it be some sort of fashion statement. And I like it. It makes me smile.
That is a very, very important aspect is if the watch brings you personal happiness. I wonder, is there a watch in your collection that felt expensive at the time, but now, as you're looking back, was totally, totally worth it?
Boy, that's a good question. Given how the Rolex is appreciated, it's impossible to say that wasn't a good idea because it's still worth a lot more than I paid for it, even as a well-worn 20-year-old watch. But it was heavy bucks when I got it. Totally unnecessary, but it did occur to me this is an investment because I could have sold it on eBay for half again as much as I paid for it, the day I got it. But to be honest, I think the one that speaks to me the most is one I haven't talked about yet. So I liked the black tag, as I'd mentioned, but in looking online at Electrona24 and some other watch websites, eBay has some, but they tend to be overpriced in my opinion. There were some black mother of pearl watches that TAG made as part of their 150th anniversary. And I thought those were cool. They looked neat. And then I found out they were never sold outside of Japan. And then I found out they were limited number. And then I found out they weren't terribly popular. So the prices were actually pretty reasonable for them. And these have a much better mechanism than my TAG Link series from 20-ish years ago did. I think they're like 17 jewel or something. Whatever they are, they were at least 1 or 2 steps up from what I had. Yeah. And so I bought one that was another Link series, and it looks pretty similar to the other, except there's some black pearl in there. And I love the color of the black pearl a lot. But that's not the one that answers your question. This is a TAG Carrera series, also in the Black Pearl.
Yeah.
And it has got a chronograph in it. It will tell the date. Oh, there it is. Caliber 16 is what they have as the mechanism in this one. But it keeps fabulous time. It's very simple and elegant. And it speaks to me just to wear it, because it gets caught in the sunlight and it can be a little sparkly, but it's obviously not designed to be a super expensive gold watch. I mean, unless you knew what you're looking at, it could as well be a mechanical one. But this one I got, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, and I bought it out of Japan. And it's pretty cool to have a Swiss watch that was only sold in Japan. That was part of their 150th anniversary, and it has a display back. So it's kind of hard to see, but this was one of the first ones I had where you can actually see the movement in the back of it. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So this one, had I known what I was getting, I would have paid more.
Hey, David Newman here with a quick commercial break. Have you seen our social media channels that have video snippets from our favorite interviews? Check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Now, back to the episode. If you had a friend or one of our listeners, for example, a friend who's just getting into watches right now, what's your best advice for them?
Make sure the watch makes you smile. Make sure you think the watch is going to make you smile 10, 20 years from now. Decide, are you buying something that you think you'll enjoy for a bit? Are you buying something you think you may enjoy for a lifetime? Or are you buying a potential heirloom? Something that your family will have long after you're gone. Yeah. Because watches do fall in that category, especially the mechanical ones, because you don't have a battery to corrode and you don't have a quartz mechanism to dry out. And the support on these watches is extremely strong. I mean, I can send any of these back to the manufacturer and have a full overhaul at a substantial price. But there are World War II era Rolexes that are still going back to Rolex to get serviced. That's pretty cool.
Yes, for sure.
And the only other thing that occurred to me is because Rolexes have gone up so much in price, people are considering them like investment vehicles. That frightens me a little bit. Now, maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe I'll sell mine today, but I don't think so. I think mine's in the heirloom category. But I don't think this is as speculative as buying collector stamps. I'm into stamps. You can see them behind me.
Yeah.
Or, to talk about a total bust, Beanie Babies. But I'm not sure I would buy watches with the expectation that they're going to go up in price necessarily. I hope people would buy watches with the expectation they'll go up in value to them.
Very, very good distinction. I had another guest talk about flippers because, of course, watch flipping has become a thing. And most flippers don't make money because, value is so fickle and so unpredictable. Something that they're sure is going to go up in value doesn't. And equally, something that was a, fairly commoditized luxury item, for some reason, takes off like wildfire. And they totally missed out on it. It's a very tough business to predict what's going to happen. You're probably better off picking stocks than you are picking watches.
Strongly agree with that. Strongly agree. I got lucky to start my cybersecurity company in 2015. In retrospect, that was a very good time to be doing that. But if you open up the paper version of the Wall Street Journal, if you can find one, and get a listing of every stock in the country and close your eyes and throw a dart, well, historically, you'll make 9% a year.
Yeah.
That's a lot better than many other choices. So if you want to go gamble, that would be the way that I would do it.
That's right. Exactly.
I'll also say I've seen some fad watches, often in like airports, or in luxury malls. I remember walking through Tokyo years and years ago and seeing some watches that were cool, but they had a watch for like $17,000 that was based on Pac-Man. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it was a high-end watch, but I remember thinking to myself, that might be cool right now, but imagine if someone had made one of those based on like He-Man. You and I might remember the He-Man, but see, that's gone. That's not
right.
part of popular culture much anymore, unless you're really in some kind of niche.
That's right.
So I tried to buy watches that I think are going to be a little more timeless, with the full expectation that, 100 years ago, the wristwatch had not been perfected. So that pocket watch, well, that was the height of technology at the time, and no one wears those anymore.
That's right. As far as resources, so YouTube channels, publications, blogs, newsletters, are there some watch media resources that you follow or that you recommend to newer folks just getting into watches?
That is a fabulous question. Regarding a good news outlet about watches, no. I enjoying my collection, but I have to really have something catch my eye or be in. I'm not trying to seek out my next new watch. I'm kind of waiting for it to find me. But if you just want to play with what watches are available, I've had good luck with very interesting sampling of watches on eBay. It's a good place to start, and their site search as well. It's very fast.
Yeah.
Or on Chrono24. And there, I have purchased a couple of watches. And if you do it through a well-established dealer, it's typically very easy. If you do it through a private seller, it can be maddeningly difficult, especially if they're out of country. But I've had good luck learning about what I might want. And then I will dive deep into Google searches and what have you about that particular model and try to find videos about it and so on. And that's how my skeleton watch came to be, is I found a couple of unboxing videos about it back when it was still being sold new.
Yeah.
And it spoke to me. And it also spoke to me not to buy a solid gold one. So they had a solid gold version of this watch.
Yeah.
It looks terrific. 18 karat gold is awfully soft compared to stainless steel. Yeah. Now it's also impervious to salt water, so there are advantages to gold. But if you intend to wear a watch a lot, I have purposely stayed away from gold cased watches because the ones I see online, it's obvious that they, as my wife would say, she's into horses, they've been ridden hard and put away wet.
And with a horse, that also smells kind of funny.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, you should not smell funny. So you got to see a doctor if your watch smells funny.
Exactly. Well, as we're landing the plane here, I have a fun lightning round series of questions, and then I'm going to ask you if there's any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we wrap up. But our lightning round is just 5 very quick A or B kinds of answers, and there's no wrong answer, there's no right answer. It's just about your personal taste and preference. My first lightning round question for Bryce Austin is strap or bracelet?
Bracelet. They last forever.
Vintage or modern?
I like a little vintage myself. Newer ones aren't bad, but I don't mind them being 10, 20, 30 years old if they speak to me.
How about 1 great watch or 5 good ones?
1 great one.
Buy new or hunt for pre-owned?
I've done both. I've had more fun hunting for pre-owned.
And then loud watch or quiet watch?
Compared to my personality, they're all quiet because I tend to talk a lot. So, but for those not on video, some of these watches are a little loud, a little on the loud side, but not ridiculously so. So I think for me, I want them first to work exceptionally well. I like something working like a well-oiled machine. And then I want them to be a statement that makes me proud to have it on my wrist.
Tremendous. And then let me ask you, are there any final thoughts or final parting words of wisdom that you'd like to share about this hobby/obsession before we wrap up?
As long as it speaks to you, it can be a very fun hobby. And I hope more people start to understand the joy of having a truly mechanical device that could have been devised easily 50 years ago, often 100 years ago, and that still serves its purpose well. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what led me to this, is I can easily understand how the whole thing works. And I have tremendous respect to the people that worked out how to do this on pencil and paper.
Amen to the mechanical in the age of digital everything.
I can say with certainty my watches are not going to get hacked.
That's right. That's right. They are completely secure.
They are analog through and through.
Well, Bryce Austin, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for joining us and sharing your watch smarts with us.
Thank you for the opportunity, David. I appreciate it.
And that wraps up another episode of Watch Smarts. Listen, if you love this show, if you love watches, subscribe, download, leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform, and check out all the free resources waiting for you at watchsmarts.com.